is about what the new church has meant to me on my spiritual journey. In the context of one's life, to me, a journey presupposes the passing of some considerable period of time as one travels through one's life, and one's spiritual journey presupposes changes in one's spiritual state as time goes by, hopefully for the better. Now, I know that Ted Brown is here, and I know that there are many people who will agree with him that I am the same bad egg that I was 40 odd years ago when I first arrived here. Brown, you're a shocker. But those things aside, for my part, I really do feel that I have come an exceptionally long way spiritually under the guidance of this church. I just want to interpose here and say that I'm 68 now, and I am what is referred to in this church as a drag-in. That is one who is dragged in by his spouse. I was 24 years old when I first arrived. I was courting old Tanya over there. And that was in 1983. And my first new church function was, in fact, June 19th banquet like the one we're at now. So to what then do I attribute my spiritual progress, or more specifically, what is it about the new church here in Westville and its teachings in particular that have influenced my spiritual journey? To me, this is a difficult question to answer. There are so many new church concepts that have resonated with me and have influenced me. I could, for example, talk about shunning evils as sins, such as love of self and love of the world, and putting them in their proper context in one's day-to-day life. I could alternatively talk about married or conjugal love, which has been particularly meaningful to me. I could talk about the church's highly developed ideas about heaven and hell, as explained to us by Swedenborg in his book of the same name. I could talk about how the church deals with the 10 Commandments and what they mean in their expanded sense, also as explained by Swedenborg in his book, True Christian Religion, and so on. There are so many other new church concepts that have influenced me on my path, but the one that I think I have valued the most is the idea of regeneration. I have no intention of going into a detailed erudite or scholarly exposition of what regeneration means and what the writings have to say about it. If you are unfamiliar with this concept, and you're interested, then you can speak to Joel. I'm quite sure he will point you in the right direction. For my part, regeneration is really quite a simple concept. Simply put, it's about being better. Every day, trying to be a little better. Every day, trying not to make the same mistakes that I made yesterday. We all know that we have free will, that we can choose to do this, or we can choose to do that, or we can choose to say this, or say that, or even think this, or think that. But when it comes to being better, it's about making choices to do so, that is, to be better. And this in turn involves deciding what influences the way one chooses. If you're a Christian, then obviously your yardstick against which you measure right from wrong and good from bad is what your church teaches you. For instance, I choose not to do this, or I choose not to do that, because it is contrary to the 10 Commandments. And, as I've already said, in the new church, the 10 Commandments are far more widely interpreted and understood than one might like to think. For instance, to say unkind things about people behind their backs is governed by at least the commandment that thou shalt not murder. Saying unkind things is a form of murder, according to the new church. And deceitfulness involving personal gain is theft, according to the new church. And a lascivious eye, short of the actual act, is still adultery, and so on. But having said this, it is one thing to know better, as is taught by the church. It is an entirely different thing to be better. We all, every day, make mistakes. We do, and especially say and think things we regret afterwards. And for me, this is where the new church's ideas about regeneration come in. And these ideas have been so helpful to me in my spiritual journey. The idea behind regeneration is that you start by recognizing your mistakes, what you've done wrong in act, in word, and in thought. You then process them and you put them away and behind you, and one resolves not to do it again. And then you, in fact, going forward, try to be better. You resolve and strenuously work at not doing the same wrong again. Now, this is very easy to say. Conceptually, it's quite straightforward, but putting it into practice is not so easy. It can be easy when it comes to the basics. It's easy, for instance, not to commit murder in the plain sense, and it's easy not to steal in the plain sense. But coveting, on the other hand, might be a little bit more difficult for many of us. And in the more subtle senses of the commandments, it's very, very easy to go wrong. It's easy to insult people or to think poorly of them for many reasons, or to say unkind things about people behind their backs, or to be selfish or arrogant or condescending or prideful or conceited or greedy or envious, and so on. If we accept that all these bad feelings like selfishness or greed or rudeness or impatience or irritation towards others or to humiliate people and so on are wrong because they are contrary to the commandments to love your neighbor, then what's the way forward when you do go wrong, or when you say or do something or think things that you regret afterwards? The way forward is to be better, as already said. In other words, to regenerate. And this especially means going forward, not doing the same things again, at very least to genuinely try. Factor into all this the way we are individually wired, our hereditary. The way we are wired, or our hereditary, can often cause us to make the same mistakes again and again and again. And we hide behind the fact that we say to ourselves, sorry, but that's just the way I am. I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. That's my hereditary. That's who I am. I'm sorry. I'm not changing myself. Well, the challenge is, in fact, to regenerate even there, to change the way we are inclined to be. In the process, we grow as a person spiritually and for the better. We work hard at changing ourselves for the better, to be more like the Lord would have us be. And this ongoing, gradual process of striving to be better and actually making some progress is regeneration. To me, regeneration is about being a little bit better every day in my thoughts, in my acts, and in my words. In fact, regeneration has become such a significant consideration in my personal life that I often think to myself that without it, life is pretty pointless. I mean, what is the point of getting up every day and running around crazily, chasing after all these things that we do on a daily basis, if every day is not about being just a little bit better, a little kinder, a little bit more considerate, a little bit more loving towards everyone one comes into contact with, and so on? Every day should be about trying to be a little bit more fair to everyone, about trying to be a little kinder to everyone, and about trying to be a little bit more humble, and such like good things. In Micah chapter 6 verse 8, the matter is plainly put. We are enjoined to, quote, do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with our God. Regeneration is about being able to attain these objectives a little bit at a time, and especially without becoming despondent at the slow progress one makes. Regeneration encourages and helps me not to become disillusioned when I drop the ball and drop the ball. I do a lot every day. The new church has introduced me to the idea of regeneration and what it means in a concrete way via the writings, and it encourages me to be gentle with myself when I make mistakes. Regeneration has played a big role in my spiritual life, and I sense and I hope that it will continue to play the same big part in my spiritual life going forward. As I say, the need to be better every day is what makes life worth living for me. It gives me very purpose in life. Thank you.